Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March studio stream.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. They let me out of the basement for this.
It's true. From one part of the basement to the other.
Oh, yeah.
I was confused by the date because I always associate March with like deep snow in Minnesota, but it is a pleasant, like very springy March right now.
Yeah, it's like bike weather.
Yeah, we hired all these Southerners and it's just like shifted the local climate, thankfully.
Yeah, the problem is I came here to escape my local climate.
Okay, well, you know, it's not so bad. No, it is like straight lovely here, and I'm really happy to be on stream with you all. Let's see, first, joined by Liz, who I guess has not had her official stream introduction. Liz Davidson, our solo specialist and member of the creative team. So welcome on, Liz.
Yes, it's fun to actually be, it's fun to be in a studio stream at last.
It was gonna happen. We weren't gonna be able to hold you off forever. What do you wanna tell everyone what you're working on right now in brief?
So right now, Richard Wilkins, AKA Ricky Royal, and I are working on a solo mode for Oath, which we'll show you a little bit of today, and then hopefully we can do a bit more than what I can show you, but I don't want to make any promises I can't keep. Let's put it that way.
You know, it's funny, I've worked with Ricky for many years, and I do not know how he would prefer me to refer to him in a conversation. Like, I call him Ricky, obviously. and I credit him as Richard Wilkins.
Yeah.
But I just never know, like, to what degree does he want his YouTube channel plugged?
I just call him Ricky Royal, because that's who he is to me. Like, I mean, honestly, it's really fun to work with Ricky, because I actually would not have ever become a YouTuber without him. Because I wanted to get into solo gaming. I found Mage Knight. I found Ricky's Mage Knight videos, which I think is like a very common conversion pathway for solo gamers. And I was like, this guy is such a patient teacher. Maybe I could do this for other games. And then I started a channel.
I think Ricky has done more for Mage Knight than the Mage Knight intellectual property has done for Mage Knight, just in terms of bringing new players, new players to the game. Liz, you know, it's funny, we often talk about the games that we're playing, but you and I couldn't help ourselves from talking about books. So Liz, what are you reading right now?
So, this is the most embarrassing time to ask that question.
Okay, I mean,
but that's okay.
You can lie though.
No, I don't.
Also,
I'm a truthful person.
Okay.
So I have actually really had a banger year for reading. So, like I've been mentioning, I thought Our Share of Night was fantastic. It's by Mariana Enriquez. It's about people who perform creepy magic in Argentina, which is fantastic. I'm about to do some of Ada Palmer's Terra Ignota series. I read the first book in that called Too Like the Lightning. It was fantastic. But yesterday I finished Iron Flame. I have been reading a lot of romantasy for research purposes. So I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame.
I know that what you're saying is true, and I'm still snickering, and I apologize for that.
It's okay. So actually, the first book was a trashy delight. The second one, it's like layering too much on for me to be
Sure.
It's like a Steven Seagal movie trying to be serious.
It's going to the same fast food restaurant twice in one day.
Yeah.
You're like really sitting in it now.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna have to stop and then probably read something like The Serpent, the Wings of Night.
Oh no! I'm reading some strange things right now. I think I've also had a very good year for reading, but my reading list, usually I have themes. It's like, oh, this month I'm obsessed with like Tudor England. I'm gonna read all about Tudor England. But what's happened is I have like 4 different strands that have just been slowly separating from each other. So I'm reading a book about the Peloponnesian Wars. It's great.
Awesome.
Fun. I'm reading some books about contemporary American politics. Not so fun, but also interesting. And then to my lovely children, we are reading The Wolves of Willoughby Chase, this Joan Atkins series that is incredibly good. And I think it was adapted once as a bad movie, like in the 1980s, and it's a shame because it is almost as good as any like mid-20th century British YA novel. And I just actually got I got a book called My Family and Other Beasts, which is
That's the guy that...
It's like about Corfu?
Yes.
Okay, is it good?
That's a great book.
Okay, so here's what I found. For me in the evenings, hanging out with my children, reading books, we love British books from the 1950s and 60s. That is like fully brand. If it's coming from that provenance, it's probably gonna hit. The Wolves of Willoughby Chase was the first time that we read more than like 90 pages in one sitting because the kids were like, you just can't stop. And it's great. It's also 150 pages, guys.
Excellent. Also, for those of you who want to appreciate Oath more, since we are going to talk about it soon, do go read the Chronicles of Prydain, because I read them and it made me appreciate Oath so much more. Also, Crafted is saying they actually like Fourth Wing. No, for full disclosure, I absolutely enjoyed Fourth Wing. I just enjoyed it the way I enjoy chicken nuggets or something.
And then I'm going to mention this because it's so odd, and if it ever comes around to him, I think he's going to find it to be quite funny. So my accountant is a food writer on the off year. It's like my favorite work relationship that I can imagine that isn't like someone I directly work with. You know, he's a tax preparer. I guess he's not my accountant. He's a tax preparer. And he works very hard for 6 months of the year, and then the other 6 months, he's a full-time food writer. And like is a fancy food writer who's won all sorts of awards and written all kinds of things. Anyway, he wrote this memoir called A Season for That about like going and taking his family to France. It is so delightful. I'm really enjoying it. But it's creating this odd thing because I'm very used to the fact that he knows a lot about me because he's my tax preparer, but now I also know a lot about him. And I don't know how our tax preparation meeting is going to go tomorrow. It's going to be a little awkward. But his book's great. So if you want like just a good food memoir, A Season for That. Lovely, lovely book.
What did he disclose that it's awkward?
It's just intimate. I mean, it's about growing up in the Midwest and, you know, just his feelings about language and food and culture, and it's just a very personal book. It's nothing extreme, but it's intimate. It's like I feel like I know him now in a way that I've never known a tax preparer in my life, and I don't know how I'm comfortable sitting with that knowledge. But
yes, well,
there we go.
Cole learned too much about me last week because the game we did play was My Favorite Things. In which he gave me the category of ranking Lord of the Rings, well, Fellowship of the Rings,
correct. Members of the Fellowship
by hotness.
Yes.
So
it's the only true criteria. I want you to know that started like 3 follow-up conversations with fierce debate in various circles. So there was a long half-life to that small joke. Okay, so we actually have a ton to talk about today. What we're going to do is I'm going to just chat about some studio happenings and go through some things with you all. And then Liz is going to show us how the new Oath solo stuff works. So first of all, this is a banner day in the World Leader Games. We have a lot of things that we are announcing, not new games yet. But we have, for instance, an internship that is posting today. So if you are interested in the Leader Games summer internship program, please apply. And I'll say just a couple words about the structure of that internship. So we have been doing this internship for 6 years, either 5 or 6 years. We've had a lot of interns. Sometimes we will hire a few interns, sometimes one, sometimes a couple. This summer, we potentially will be hiring up to 2. The internship is designed for people early in their career. So we get sometimes high school students or college students or recent graduates. We're looking for people who want to explore what it's like to work in the creative industry. The internship is designed to be creative facing, so you'll report to me, you'll work on the creative team. Mostly, you are helping us build prototypes, test games, and just do the yeoman's work of development. So lots of at whiteboards talking about whether a number should be 3 or 4. That is a big part of the internship. Sometimes you will have to do nonsense projects that are important. For instance, one of the things that we did in previous years was setting up an early version of the studio that we're filming in now. That was the thing that I worked on with the summer interns. What the intern does is also a function of what the intern wants to do. So we designed this internship to be at the overlap between things that the intern wants to learn about and things that the studio needs. So this summer, we are going to be, Root will be already done by the time the internship starts. We'll probably be in the very last stage of Oath, so there won't be that much Oath work for it. But we'll be working on some brand new projects, so the interns will be seeing how those business plans get written, some of the background of early design, potentially how a crowdfunding campaign might be planned. And in addition to that, if the intern is really interested in business strategy or marketing, well, they can mention that they're interested in those things, and we will find tasks and mentorship opportunities within the company. This is a fully paid internship. We have a good hourly rate, and we usually offer people between 10 and 25 hours a week. It fluctuates a little bit, depends a lot on the intern's availability. The internship starts anytime in May to early June is a start, and then goes until August. And the last and most important thing about the internship is that it is an in-person internship. It would be comical if we were to attempt to make this internship remote, so we do it as an in-person internship. But if you're going to be in the St. Paul area for the summer, we would love to see your application. You can find the application in the chat right now. You'll be able to find it on our website. Eventually, it'll be on social media. We are going to be accepting applications through the 28th of March, and then we'll be making a decision about the internship by mid-April, if all goes well.
Awesome.
It's good.
Yes, come hang out with us for the summer. I promise it'll be fun.
Yeah, you'll get to work with Liz if you're interested in working in solo stuff.
That can happen, yeah.
It's possible. I mean, you get pulled into all kinds of things. We have had a really wide variety of interns in the past, and I always love working with them because they are going to show me all sorts of things that I had not considered before, and it's always fun to get to reintroduce the kind of work you're doing to a new group. So it's a great internship. I encourage folks to apply to it. So that's thing one. Thing two is that Ahoy, it will be fulfilling in April. We are within a month or so of fulfillment beginning in most regions. Everything is kind of on schedule. It's just slowly like winding its way through all of the logistical paths it needs to go on, but we can now officially say that this will be an April fulfillment for the Ahoy New Horizons stuff. We cannot wait for you all to see it. I know that if you're interested in it, we have some previous design chats, studio streams where we show off the final copies of the game. It's fantastic. I have like officially broken the shrink on my personal copy and played it with the kiddos, and we had a great, great time. Then we have launching today the Leader Games Studio podcast called Romp, hosted by Matt and Hunter of Space Cats and Peace Turtles fame. I'll call it that. Acclaim, fame. It's the best and longest running podcast on a single board game I think that's ever been created. Romp is going to be incredible, though. I'm really excited about this podcast because it's the first studio, I'm trying to think what the right way to frame it. It's the first piece of commentary, criticism, I want to say content seems to pull it down, that looks back at games that we've already published. I mean, the origins of this podcast, which I talked about a little bit last month, is pretty much all of the material that we make in the studio is always forward-looking. We're really looking at what's the next game we're working on, what's really, really in development, and that allows us to share a lot of really exciting things with you all. We can talk about a game that may not exist yet, probably won't. What this allows us to do is talk about things that do exist and go drill much, much, much deeper. Because if you're always having to go to the next new thing, you're not getting a chance to really develop like a full mastery of it. So they're going to start with some content about ARCs, and they already have some things posted there, and there'll be a lot more coming in the following weeks and months. But we're really excited about it, and it launches today. So you can get it wherever you can find podcasts. We don't have any Spotify deals or anything like that. Any platform, right? Okay, let's see what else we got here. One last little bit of studio news. Patrick's birthday is coming up in just under a week. And if you are interested in sending a birthday card, you can send it to our address right there. I'm sure he'd be glad to get it. He's celebrating his 50th birthday. And with any luck, I will have time to run a game of Blood on the Clock Tower this weekend to help ring in the decade with him.
Do we count our years in this company like by years that Patrick has existed?
Is Leader Games turning 50? I mean, this is maybe, right? Okay, and then one little addendum before we get into the next thing we want to talk about, which is if you happen to be in San Francisco and are able to make it out to GDC, myself and Josh are going to be doing a talk next week about the studio and how we make games here. It's called Early Access Tabletop, and we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about ARCs. And with any luck, within 1 to 3 years, that talk will appear on YouTube. Fingers crossed, I'm still waiting on the last talk I gave at GDC. But if you happen to be in San Francisco at GDC, I'd love to chat with you. You can send me a message on Blue Sky. We can organize a meetup. Okay, so that's the big stuff. There's one more little thing, but that is going to lead me into this little physical object. We have in stock at our store right now the ARCs errata pack. It's finally here. This is a set of 23 cards, which anybody who was an early adopter, was a backer of ARCs, you can use these cards to bring your campaign game up to the latest spec. Now, what I'll do here, we're going to do like an unboxing, an unwrapping of this. We've never done a product like this before, and I'll say that this is a ARCS was actually designed to do this. So we knew that we were going to build a giant game that was going to be adapting, and there'd be new content hopefully eventually. And to help that, we have these little errata packs that are going to allow us to kind of keep the game up to date. So this is the first one, and we imagine that like if we do an expansion for ARC sometime in the future, there might be an additional errata and balance pack so everybody can keep their kits like up to the latest version. So I'll just show folks what this is. If you're interested, you can get it on our web store for $2. That covers shipping, and you can find it right now, and they'll be shipping out very soon. So here we go. This is my personal errata pack. I just opened the shrink on it. Front, there's a little instructions on how it gets used. The main thing about this errata pack is the whole reason it exists is because of this card. So Navy Reprisal had originally been left out of the base game due to a file error on our part, and we wanted to make it right. So we have the corrected F1 card 15 Navy Reprisal in the game. This is actually the only game critical element in the entire pack. The vast majority of the rest of these cards, I'll show just so people can see, there you go. The vast majority of these cards, which cover different cards in the campaign game. The Steward is in here, has got a few. There's some cards from the Advocate, I believe. Partisan's got some cards, and you'll see, like, they probably look, from this distance certainly, like the cards you already own. And in fact, in many respects, they are. We did things like fix an incorrect page citation. Sometimes there would be interactions between other cards. And what we did was go through, and this was work that was done by Matt and Josh mostly. They went through to make sure that if there was a kind of funny interaction, that it would be described really clearly on the card. There were a few, let's see if I can find an example of one. There were just a few small like terminology adjustments that we put in here. It's nothing serious. Let me see if I can find the one that I was thinking of.
Planet Breaker.
Yes, that was the one, the hammer fragments. So in clarifying how the Planet Breaker's hammer fragments work and the way the Breaking of Worlds works, these steps got adjusted a little bit. Now, the end result is basically the exact same thing that was happening in the game, but this now better captures some of the interactions that could happen, especially with other fates, and it's just a little clarified on here. So again, it's an errata pack filled with clarifications, but we're happy to bring everybody's kits up. This was a cost that we were delighted to be able to take. Maybe not delighted, but it's something that the studio is never going to shy from doing right by the folks who supported us when it came to that first Kickstarter. So there it is. It is on our store right now, and if you are interested in getting a copy for yourself, you can buy it, $2, and we'll have it shipped to you as soon as we can. One little note about this errata pack only covers the campaign. So there are, in the leaders and lore, like a couple very small clarifications that we've put in, nothing that warrants an errata pack. And at some point in the future when we are printing a new, if we do a new ARCS crowdfunding campaign, we will certainly have a way to get all of your components up to date, but it's nothing mission critical. All of the stuff that actually required reprints is in this pack, and it only concerns the campaign game. All right, and that's it. That's what's going on in the studio. These are busy times.
Yes. We can just skip the oath conversation. I'm kidding. By the way, I want to say I'm enjoying all of the jokes about me yelling people in Latin. For those of you who don't know this about me, in my previous life, I was a high school Latin teacher. So make of that what you will.
I expected when we brought you on that you would be yelling more Latin than you do.
Yes.
It's all pointed at me.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right, this is perfect. I'm gonna put a little window in my office so I can open it and get a Latin.
Yes. If you contact me and you want to know bad words in Latin, I got you. But we're not doing it.
Do you know, I had to put some lorem ipsum in a document, and I didn't realize that it was Cicero.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like from like a random just document that was like unattributed, and I dumped some in. I'm like, wait a second, and I just started looking at it, and then I looked at where it came from. I'm like, oh, it's Cicero. That would be distracting if I knew Latin.
That's also like the meanest thing to give somebody, because like the Latin dad joke that everybody tells is that like Cicero's giving a speech and somebody comes late and they're like, oh man, what did I miss? And the person next to him goes, oh, I don't know, he hasn't got to the verb yet.
like I got in my Latin education, I got through Caesar, and then as a treat for the 4th year Latin students, you did a bunch of like Cicero and you did the Aeneid, and that was your full year. And I was extremely bad at Latin, and mostly I had one of my best friends was a Latin student, and I kind of copied off his work, and I kept him company. And I think the only reason I was allowed to take Latin 4 is because the teacher wanted to make sure that the one student who was taking it had a friend. And so he and I went in this like little study room and worked on Latin 4, and I mostly didn't do anything but nodded and drew fan art of Aeneas doing things. So that's pretty much where my Latin education ended.
If I had taught you Latin, you would be great at Latin.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, so we're going to talk about Oath. How much have we talked to people about Oath solo, other than the one design diary?
Not much. I mean, let me frame this slightly. We will have an update that'll go out on Kickstarter later this week. So maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. This update will include an update to the base game with not the base game, the update to the new Foundations expansion with lots of new features, a fresh mod with tons of really cool custom scripting. But basically, it's going to look a lot like the last kit with some cleanups. But there'll be an exciting new thing in that mod, which is that Liz now has the bot fully operating within the new Foundations framework. And so people have talked a little bit about how the bot, I think people have seen a little bit of how the bot works. We haven't really talked about it publicly. So do you want to give us the bot tutorial?
Yeah, we can do like the basic botting in
Yes.
in Oath. I do want to start out by saying this project has been fascinating for me because you texted me like a couple summers ago and you're just like, do you want to do solo Oath with Ricky? And I was like, yes. But I had like never played Oath, like maybe like once.
This is good career advice. You say yes.
Say yes, just do it. But one thing that's been really interesting about this solo mode, if those of you who are solo players, you completely understand what I'm talking about here. You have to find the right balance when you're making solo mode in terms of the vibes where it feels like the game that you're trying to enable people to play at low player counts. But the bot also has to be competitive enough to be interesting to play. And so you have to decide like, well, how dumb and strong do I want to make it? How responsive do I want to make it? Like how simple can I make a player turn? And Oath, for those of you who have been playing it, it's not a hard game in terms of action to action, like doing the actions, but it's a very complex game in terms of what cards can do, what sites can do, shifting victory conditions. So like how do you make a solo mode that suits that? And so Ricky and I have been working really hard on making a sleek enough bot for the base game. And then we've been adapting it now for New Foundations. And so I feel pretty good about New Foundations bot. We'll be tweaking it. We're in the smooth out phase of our bots.
Yeah.
But for those, I'm assuming you know how to play Oath to give you this quick overview, but I'll try to like explain it out.
Yeah, if you don't know how to play Oath, you can pause the stream. You can watch any number of excellent videos about Oath, and then come back. And
You'll be okay, I think.
Sorry,
Okay.
You're now talking to an audience of people who all know how to play Oath because they paused the video. They
There we
watched
go.
the tutorial,
Okay,
and they've
perfect.
come back.
All right, so Matt, you want to take us to the table? I'll lay everything. Woo, magic. Okay, so one thing that you should know about Oath, if you don't already, is that there's always an Oathkeeper goal. The game always begins with somebody who is in the role of Chancellor, although that is actually up for grabs now in New Foundations, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But there will be an oath, and you will need to keep it in order to either remain Chancellor or to usurp that position. So there are a few different oaths, each of which has a different symbol associated with it. We're just going to go for the classic Oathkeeper of Supremacy. So the first thing that you want a bot to be able to do is, try to pursue the Oathkeeper goal. So in Oath, the servant bot that Ricky and I have been working on, we've just been calling it the servant, basically because it can be a placeholder for a human who's just not a game knight. So it like serves your interests while you're gone potentially. And it just, it sounds sort of ominous. So that's what we're going for, I suppose. You can play with several of them in a game as well, which we can get to if you have questions about it. Basically, in Oath, there's always an oath. So a servant can be placed in either the Chancellor position, as an exile, or in some cases as a citizen. And you could also have multiple bots in the game with you playing different roles. So you have to be able to get it to pursue the Oathkeeper goal for starters. So the way that we decided to do that is we've got these action cards. So some of them are just basic action cards with no symbol in the bottom corner. But we've also got different symbols on some of these cards. I'll set these aside for a moment. For Darkest Secret, for most relics and banners, for trying to get the people's favor, and also for trying to get the Grand Scepter in some cases. And so we basically have these mini decks that will enter the game as new goals appear for the servant to pursue. So any or all of these cards, sometimes none, might make it into a game of Oath, depending on who is revealing visions we'll get to in a moment. But your base Oath deck is always going to start with just the basic cards, and then the ones that have a symbol that matches the actual Oathkeeper goal. So you would shuffle those up, and you just draw them off the top of the deck. And so basically, instead of having a big flowchart, because those are scary, instead you have some actions that hopefully you will soon memorize. So my bot turns take well under a minute because I play it so much. It'll take you a little bit of practice, but then you will get fast too, and the bot turns will go quickly. We wanted to make sure there wasn't too much information going on, basically. So this is always a moon or a star action. So basically, yes, it reminds me, the bot will also start with what's called a mood. And that's going to change as visions come into the game. So you always have your Oathkeeper goal, which is kind of like the North Star of the game. So some of these cards will have a star on them, indicating that it's going to take a specific action that takes it towards that Oathkeeper goal. Some cards will have a moon as the first action, which means that the bot will take an action that's keyed to possibly a different goal, depending on the visions that are in the game. Then you'll have 3 basic actions, each of which can be boosted by the bot having access to one of the suits in the game. And so that can either mean they rule it as an advisor or as a denizen at a site, or it can mean that that suit appears on the mood card. So basically we gave the bot access to different suits so that it would occasionally take boosted actions, and it will get more powerful if you're not controlling what cards it has access to, whether it rules certain sites because it will go for them, etc. And then it'll take a reap action at the end of the game, at end of its turn, that like just lets it gain resources. So if it needs favor and secrets, it's going to be a powerhouse for those.
So this is a really interesting element that was not present in the original solo design. So the original solo design had this funny paragraph at the end that said, hey, if you want the bot to like interact with any of the cards on the board, you just have to make it up as you go because we can't adjudicate all of the like myriad interactions. And here, there is a baseline introduction that's been introduced that says, look, the bot has these sites, these suits that it is using to power up its actions. So if you as a player are like policing against those suits, you're going to be interacting with the bot, which means that it gives this like layer of board texture that just wasn't there at all with the old version.
We're trying to make this bot feel oathy. And then, so if you look at the bottom also, in order to like make it so that players don't have to make irritating decisions all the time, we've got a row of suits at the bottom, which will tie break. So if you're taking favor from an unspecified bank, if you're trying to decide which denizen the bot is going to interact with, there's actually a row of suits along the bottom of the card to help you make the decision without having to sit there and think about it. We're also working on getting to work smoothly, but we've got priority tokens for the sites so that the bot, it will be obvious where the bot is supposed to go without you having to sit there and read the board state for several minutes before you figure that out. Because I've played a lot of solo games like that, and that's not the experience we wanted for y'all. So the other thing is, one of the things that makes Oath different, though, is that you don't just have one victory condition. You have several that can appear throughout the game. So basically, every time somebody reveals a vision, let's say we get the vision of rebellion, the bot is going to respond to the game state. So it will always have star actions on these cards that are keyed to the Oathkeeper goal. But as the mood changes, it's the moon. It's kind of moody, shifts a lot. You will have different moods with access to different suits, and you will shuffle in cards that are affiliated with specific visions that come out throughout the game so that new actions, new combinations of actions and new priorities for that bot can like enter into play. So what we were trying to create was a bot that is responsive enough to keep play interesting and competitive without overdoing it.
Yeah, I've never seen a bot that had like this deck building component. Like, I don't know, is that a thing that's used in any other solo games?
I don't know, because I ripped it off from playing Weimar.
So, you get the best inspirations from the multiplayer games, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
but it is interesting because it's solving this tricky problem, which is you can build a flowchart to account for every possible behavior.
Yes.
but it's going to feel horrible to run. And here you can say, look, we have these behaviors. We're putting them in groups. It doesn't really matter what order the actions are happening in, so that we can have variance and shuffle it in, and then you can just adjust that behavior pool with these shifts in mood.
Yes. So what makes the bot interesting to test and interesting to work on is that I think most bots are keyed towards winning a specific game or giving a player a challenge for that game. But the thing about Oath is that it's not about playing one game.
Right.
It's about a shifting world where you play hopefully multiple games in succession. So we wanted a bot that made you feel like you were doing the story, maybe a little bit more than a bot that's going to try to win, although it will absolutely try to do that.
And then can the bot work as a chancellor? Does it have to be, you want to talk about its political positions?
So they can take any role. And actually you can have more than one bot in the game in different roles. So one thing that most of our solo playtesters, no shade on Oath at all, but I'm not personally in Oath at 2 players. So one thing that the bot is supposed to do is it is good to throw in with 2 players, and I have some groups of 2 players who like to play with 2 bots. And as a solo player, when I'm playing alone, I also prefer to play against 2 bots. I've not run a bot-only game, but I'm going to talk about that. So the reason that you shouldn't run a bot-only game of Oath in particular is that one thing that Ricky and I were really thinking about is when you have a bot, the bot exists for you as the player to have a good play experience. The bot doesn't exist on its own. It doesn't have its own internal life. It fully exists to provide resistance to you. And so actually what's really funny is if you have multiple servants in a game, they kind of like each other better than they like human players. And so they all have the same mood, even if different visions are revealed. So one thing that's kind of fun is that a bot can reveal every single vision card that it pulls. So it will actually sift through the deck and acquire multiple visions and then have the potential to win on any of them because it's not calculated enough to play the way a human would play. So we give it a little bit of extra oomph, but it'll still bring all those different action types into the game. And because you've shuffled in cards that have, for example, the people's favorite action on it, even if you have a different mood, this action is still going to appear potentially in the game. So sort of like how you have multiple visions that can be out in a game of Oath, the idea is that it will kind of pan out with you.
Okay, sure.
And it'll actually dig through the world deck to try to get some visions. If the player's in exile and the bot gets all 4 visions, that means that you as the player should have searched the world deck a little more. But actually, it'll punish you a little bit. But the other thing is that it will stop actively hunting for them once a 3rd vision is revealed.
I see, sure.
So because you need 3 visions out in order to win, the bot will deliberately push during that reap action at the end of its turn to try to dig out 3 of them.
Okay, sure. That makes sense. So then everything you've described so far, this works with the base game. So even if you didn't, if you missed the New Foundations crowdfunding campaign or you're not really interested in making, adding all the new features to Oath, there was a reason why we broke the solo materials into their own box, right?
Yes.
This is all totally standalone. As long as you've got a copy of Oath base, you can plug all the new bot material right into the game.
Yes, and there are also various P&P versions of it out in the world already, although Ricky and I are constantly making rules adjustments and action tweaks right now.
Yeah.
But the other thing is we have been updating it for New Foundations. The good news is that, how do I put this? I think that New Foundations is going to be the way that people play Oath once they've tried it. I don't actually think that you'll go back to base once you've gone to New Foundations. But the spirits and the guts of the game are really still the same. So it feels like Oath 1.5. There's a lot of stuff that's different. There are different sites, there are different denizens. But that basic structure of Oathkeeper goal and visions is still there. And the action sequences are roughly the same. So I've been experimenting with breaking the New Foundations bot into challenging for a banner and trying to recover a relic because those are split actions in New Foundations now.
Right.
But basically, it can operate pretty similarly.
Yeah, it will need, for sure, it'll have its own deck that's used for New Foundations. There'll be some other specialized components. But basically, all of the things that allow players to engage with New Foundations, the bot will also be able to engage with.
Yes. Actually, we had a really fun conversation about this yesterday. So in New Foundations, if you have certain traits at the end of the game and you've also fulfilled certain conditions, you can actually adjust the rules, the foundations of the game. You add new foundations. So we've been talking about ways to allow the servant, if you're playing with it, to also change foundations depending on what you allow it to get by the end of the game. So it will also draw traits off of that deck in the current draft. And if it has the Darkest Secret at the end of the game, if it has the People's Favor, and it also has a trait that matches that, it will adjust the game. So you also have to watch it. It's not just about winning. It's about keeping an eye on whether it's going to change your game and whether you're cool with that change.
One of the nice things about having you in the office, and like Liz's office is literally like behind mine, it's right next door, is that when we're talking about new foundations, I can knock on your door and say like, Liz, I know you're working on something related to solo, but like come into this meeting. And also you get to play all the playtests.
Yes.
And so what you're seeing is the emergence of what we'll call like the new foundations play pattern, because people do play the game like a little bit differently once they have this set of tools with them.
Yes.
And you can then build the bot to react to those play patterns. So one of the play patterns that we've seen is players opting out of the end game scrum because they want to play like 2 or 3 games ahead. They'll look at the traits that they've got, they'll think about the way that the board is kind of developing, they'll say, look, I just want to become a citizen by the end of this game, because once I'm a citizen, I can sort of enact like my second plan.
Right.
And you can do these weird metagaming plans that are 2 or even 3 games in execution. Well, now that, because Liz is in those games, we've been able to have conversations about how can you make a bot that will engage a player, and if a player is getting shellacked by the bot, the player can make a choice that says, look, I'm going to try to play the longer term game against the bot, and the bot will have some way to apply that metagame pressure.
Yes.
Because you can't, I mean, the bot, as good as the bot will get, it will not write a jokey entry in the Chronicle book about how badly you played.
It will write in the stars, though.
It will write in the stars.
It will. It's going to write in the stars because I demand it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you wanted to like make a little table where it would generate a bad Chronicle entry where it just made fun of how bad the players were, that's fine too. But
don't tempt me.
A lot of those like the sort of metagame goals which make New Foundation so special, it's exciting to see them plug into the bot in one way or another, and you know that stuff is still being sorted out.
Yes.
So let's talk a little about like the release schedule, because maybe, unless do you have other things you want to?
I just want to warn everybody: if you decide to make the bot your citizen, you do have to pay it. It will accept, but then it will aggressively pursue the successor goal. So just be careful. It's not going to sit there and help you in a sweet way.
Yeah, it will only help you like incidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't like people. It's not a people bot. It's just like me.
But if you've got a really strong successor, lock on the successor condition, maybe you'll take it to just have one fewer thing nipping at your heels.
And you can always exile it.
Right. Important. So let's talk about the release schedule a little bit. And I'll make a couple of mentions. Actually, the one thing I haven't talked about at all during this design studio chat, I don't know what this is called anymore, is Root. Root Homeland is very nearly done. We have like a month, maybe 6 weeks of testing left. Everyone's done a really good job. There's going to be one more big print and play kit. It'll probably be the last major free print and play kit. That'll happen sometime in April. So we don't have a lot of new Root stuff to report because Josh has been managing the project very well. It's going swimmingly, and it's going to be done soon. The way these projects have kind of finished up, almost certainly, I mean, well, not almost certainly Root will be going to the factory first. Both Root and Oath are on very similar timelines, and both projects actually have submitted files for like physical sampling and things like that.
Except me.
Yeah, we'll get there. Your stuff's mostly on paper, so that's paper always goes last. So what we're anticipating is Root is going to press first, and then Oath will be going to press right after it. So I would guess both projects will probably fulfill within 1 to 3 months of each other, depending on how quickly we can get them done. That stuff's going to get sorted out. So nothing new to report on the Root front. Now with Oath, as I mentioned earlier, later this week, geez, I was backwards on both parts of that. Later this week, we're going to be publishing a Kickstarter update. That update is going to include a new TTS mod, an update to the TTS mod that is really, really nice. It's going to have probably a developer diary that I'm going to write about some of the work that we've been working on New Foundations, which I can talk a little bit about in a second. It will also include a big update to the bot, as well as a bot that works with New Foundations. So if you've been following around along with the campaign and have been kind of like waiting for the right time to start playing some New Foundation stuff, now is the right time.
Now is the time.
Yeah.
We've been having a great time playing in the studio. It's been really fun.
It's just scream. It just became like so much more of like a sandboxy, open world strategy game. Things that have happened in recent Oath games. One exile was so strong that like 3 players had to band against them, and to see the citizen framework work like you were assembling a grand alliance in like a fantasy novel was so beautiful. And it was one of those moments where as it was happening, I just thought, you can't do this in any other strategy game.
Yes.
Like go up to someone and be like, you need to ally with me, and together we can stop this invader. And to have that play be fully emergent was like pretty wonderful.
Yeah, and like right now in our chronicle, you are the Chancellor as like the long lost heir, but I'm in the royal line, so I could steal Chancellor from him at any moment as long as I maintain the trait. And I also have more more.
Oh yeah, I'm like
points.
losing on points because I've got this sister who's just way better at everything than I am in the game. A lot of the changes in New Foundations too have been about like opening it up. So let me give a small example. It's possible because lineages and oath now can like rise and they can also collapse. So basically, if you lose your last trait card, and you don't have anything else that defines you. So if you're a citizen, for instance, you're still defined by being a citizen. But if you lose all of your traits, your lineage will just kind of collapse. Now that means there's a scenario where the Chancellor's line collapses and there are no other citizens. And so I had to write instructions that say, look, in this game, there's no Chancellor. And we're playing the game under banded authority, and it's a little bit of a different game mode. And an empire can kind of emerge organically, and maybe it emerges because someone stumbles into the long lost heir, or because someone like finds an ancient pact, or maybe it will emerge just at the end of the game when someone manages to win.
Right.
That's such a strange, like far branch to be developing a game on, where you're like, what happens to the game when the parts of the game have like started to shut down? And Oath supports it now.
Yes.
So we've just kind of like leaned into the weirdness of the whole design. What else do I want to say about Oath? I don't know. I have so much to share with folks about how Oath is working, and I'll be doing that, again later this week. But if you have been interested in following along, now is a great time to do it. I'll also mention that I'm probably going to be opening up the testing Discord. I don't know how I'm going to do this yet, but we are looking for some more testers to just help with the final stretch. We usually do this towards the end of a big project. We did it with ARCs too. We're kind of during the last few months, the game is pretty stable. I need like a lot of like line edits on everything. And I want to know all the weird interactions. If someone tells me they like use the spiteful mirror with the like tavern to create an infinite favor loop, like, yes, I want to know all about it so that we can fix those things or encourage them where appropriate. And so that is hopefully going to happen within the next few weeks. We need to do a proper editing pass on everything before we share it.
Yeah, Cole's going to be having a great time at GDC. I'm going to be in the books.
Be in the books, and I want to come home with just pages dripping with red ink. So if you're interested in joining testing, I think now is a good time to, again, play the kit when it gets announced, get familiar with things, and then starting in April, we'll start expanding that testing Discord. Anybody who's interested in just seeing how we finish games at Leader Games, you're going to learn a lot through that process. We'll also be starting the process of usability reads in April for the new Oath material. So again, if you're interested in helping us make games, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to volunteer and help out. Okay. Cool. Anything else that we want to touch base on?
No. Thanks for having me on my first studio chat. Hopefully I'm not banned from them now.
No. But it's going to be another 8 months before you're allowed.
That's probably right.
Okay, so a quick... That's right. Quick review. If you want to learn more about our games and are excited to just dive deep, check out the Romp podcast. It's live now. You can find information about that podcast on our social media feed. If you just search it on any platform where you get your podcast, you will find the Leader Games podcast, Romp. If you have been waiting for the errata pack, it's in my hand. and you have to get it from me. You can buy it at our store. It's $2, and that website is posted now. Ahoy fulfillment is imminent. It's coming very soon. By next month, hopefully, many of you will have your copies of the Ahoy expansions, and we're excited to share more about those soon. And then, did I mention the internship? The internship also posted. Apply. Come work with Liz and I. It's fun.
It'd be awesome.
You will probably eat a roast beef sandwich at Mavericks with us at some point.
Yes, I mean, there's no downside.
There's no downside. It's great.
Also, that oath box is not on risers for whoever asked. And
No.
Fred, the only one canceled is you.
Yeah, there you go. Get it. We have a lot to talk about Oathbox stuff, but that's for another update. And then lastly, this week, Patrick will be celebrating his birthday, and if you want to send him a card, there's the address up on the screen, the big 50. So send him a card, get wild with it. Get wild with it. I'm excited to look at it.
We also see them, and we really like getting mail. Like, one of my favorite things about working here is, like, seeing cool mail come in, and, like, it gets set out on one of the tables. So, like, we would be delighted to see your quirky postcards, or just your generally nice ones.
Invite us to your wedding.
Oh, no, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, we should have a board of the weddings. Just a special place for them. Okay, that's it. That's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us for the March stream. We will see you next month for the April Studio Chat.